Seems like you guys weren't too interested in this project in the last video. No worries, we're gonna fix that today. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I know the last video on this little project here wasn't too interesting. Didn't do much but really talk about the 3D printed body. Today we're gonna make some progress on it and I think you guys are gonna like it. I got a bunch of sandpaper here to take care of those seams and we'll glue the body together. And I also got some rod ends in. We're gonna build those new links. Got a whole bunch of stuff for today's video. I'm hoping to get this body close to mounted and the wheelbase right by the end of this video. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's get started. So some of these seams are actually really good already because they were printed directly on the build surface of the 3D printer. You can see these are nice and smooth already, but some of them aren't. Some of them had support material and those are not gonna join well to each other. So we're gonna sand those down. To do that, I got a piece of 80 grit sandpaper here just to have a flat surface. I have it taped to a sheet of carbon fiber and it's gonna be as easy as going in and sanding. Now, PLA isn't the easiest to sand, that's very well known, but I'm just gonna take my time and do this. I'm gonna go through and sand all of those seams with the 80 grit and then come back with some 220 afterwards and make sure all the seams are rough and ready to take some glue. I shot this part twice now without turning the mic on. Let's see if we can do it right this time. This 80 grit paper made quick work of the seams, especially the ones that you could see a lot of layer lines on from the support material. Now I'm gonna take this paper off and put some 220 grit on my carbon fiber sheet here and resand all of the seams, including the ones that have a really nice smooth surface from the bed of the 3D printer. These surfaces are nice already, but I want them to have a little bit of grit to them so that the glue has something to grab onto when we go to glue all these pieces together. All right, we got the mic on this time. So I got all the pieces sanded. I wiped off all the seams with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. That just cleans the seam up and prepares the surface to be glued. We're gonna be using CA glue to glue these pieces together. I talked about it in the last video. I did a little bit of research and it seems like for PLA, this is probably the best option. It's definitely the easiest option for me as well. A lot of the things I glue with CA glue, I use the kicker to speed up the drying process. But today, to make sure I get the seams right, we're not gonna use that, I don't think. We're just gonna glue them together. To help me line up the seams, we're gonna use the tape hinge method. I think I've covered this before, but just to show again, we're gonna start with the front here. I'm gonna put a couple of pieces of tape on the top of the hood. Then we'll line up the seams, making sure this middle body line here, the body lines on the hood are even, and also on the side of the fenders. Once this is lined up, we can push our tape down onto this front grille section. And now that it's pretty close to lined up, we're gonna add a couple more pieces of tape. So now our seam is nice and lined up. And to get the glue in there, it's as easy as just hinging it open like this, and then it'll hinge back in place afterwards. You can see here we have a little separation, not holding it together perfectly. I'm going to push this together and add another piece of tape to make sure that holds while the glue sets. With the body all glued together, now it's time to figure out these links and get the wheelbase right. So we take the chassis here with the already extended back links. I'm gonna take the body and set it on now, and we can see just about how far we'll have to extend the links. Because of the shock position, which I may end up having to make some new shock mounts, but because of the shock position, I'm gonna extend the front links further than the back. But to get an idea, I'm gonna line up the front, and I'm just gonna use a caliper here to measure about roughly how far we're gonna have to extend these links. It looks like we're right at about an inch. I'm at 0.948. So I know we have to extend the links total by about an inch. Probably gonna do about 3/4 of an inch in the front and about 1/4 of an inch in the back, just so that the chassis is more centered inside the body. I'm gonna pull all the links off first, and then we're gonna go ahead and do that. Oh boy, this is gonna be interesting. Let's just get started here. You can see I have one link in the middle here made up already. This is a new stainless link that I just made. We're gonna run through how I made this. This is a lower link in the rear, and we need one more, so we're gonna make another one here. I'm using these 3D printed rod ends from Shapeways. They're made by RexRacer19. I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can get these yourself if you're interested. Comes with 24 rod ends, which is more than enough than I need. They thread nicely into this 256 threaded rod, which slips right into a piece of stainless tubing here. But you can see I have a whole bunch of stuff here just to make one link. Let's get into why I have all of this. What I did was take the lower links off of the rear of the SCX24. I measured it out with my caliper. I noticed it was about 2 3/4 inches. To be exact, it was 2.71 inches long. So I added 1/4 inch to that and went 2.96 inches long. I used one rod end and I threaded it onto the end of my threaded rod. I measured out how much of the threaded rod went into the eyelet, which was about 3 millimeters. So then I was able to line up another rod in 2.96 inches away, measure back my 3 millimeters, and cut my threaded rod there. Before we can thread this other eyelet on though, we have to cut out stainless tubing, and that's where I ran into some trouble. I'm sure there's an actual tool out there used to cut stainless tubing at this size, but all I have is a full-size tubing cutter, and it works, but it's a pain. It's really hard to actually turn the tubing or the tubing cutter while it's in there. I guess since it's so small and technically I'm only cutting about 2 inches of tubing, there's no real way to grab it and turn, so it's rough. But I was able to end up cutting it, and then I had to clean up the holes where I cut it at to be able to fit the threaded rod in. I'll show you that in a second though. I'm going to use this one and cut the threaded rod and the tubing ready for the opposite side link, and we'll put it together. After finally getting that tubing cut, you can see one side, the original end, is open. This side that I just finished cutting is a little off. So to fix that, I have a deburr tool on the drill here, and I'm just gonna go in there and wobble that out just a touch. Now it fits in, so now we can install the rod ends. Like I said, these just clip off of the tree here, and now the threaded rod goes directly in the end. Threads in pretty easily, wanting to make sure it's staying straight, as straight as possible. I'm gonna take our tubing, slide it over the end, and then take your second rod in and thread it on as well. So that's 2 links down. I have a whole lot more to build. I think we're gonna give up on the pipe cutter, and I think we're gonna end up going outside and cutting the rest of this tubing with the Dremel. It's gonna be a whole lot quicker, a whole lot cleaner. You've seen how much I struggled with this, so if you have one and you wanna try it, more power to you. I'm not gonna try that again. So now I got all of the links built. These are for the rear, these are for the front. The front originally had a wishbone up top. I'm going with a 4-link setup now. Unfortunately, I don't have enough pivot balls to finish off that 4-link in the front. I have some on the way, but that's not going to stop us from throwing that on there just to see how that wheelbase looks with the new body. Let's throw them on the truck. And now the moment we've been waiting for. All right. Obviously that's not exactly where the body's gonna fit on the chassis. Once I get some body mounts, the body will lift up a little bit from the wheels, so that'll clear. It'll sit somewhere around right here, most likely. But I'm really happy with that wheelbase. That wheelbase fits now. The truck looks good. It actually really looks good with those wheels and tires. I'm interested in getting a set of the new wheels and tires on. But we're gonna cover that in the next video. In that video, we'll deal with the wheels and tires as well as the shocks. You can see the way the shocks are positioned now. There is no way we can drive like that. I mean, technically we could, but it's not gonna perform that well. I have some new shocks on the way and we'll play around with those mounting positions of those. The main thing is though, those links look awesome underneath there and the body now fits the wheelbase. I'm extremely excited about the way that looks. It took a good bit of work, but we're done now. That's one big part done. I have to start sanding this body now. And remember, I still have to 3D print the back section again to make us a camper trailer. So for today, that'll be it on this project. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. There didn't seem to be too much interest in the project after the first video, but I'm hoping now that you can see some more progress and see the way the truck's actually sitting, that more people will be interested in it. This should look great, and there's a couple of more custom features coming along. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss the next part of this video. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss the next part of this series. And as always, thanks again for watching. Peace.